Charlie Cross Morrison made 3 mistakes. Mistake 1. Joining the Ku Klux Klan in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 1943. Mistake 2. Killing State Trooper Daniel Richardson, August 1951. 2 bullets. Death by electric chair. Mistake 3. Killed him faster. February 11th, 1952. 6 days on the run. After a prison break, Charlie walked into a dress shop in Harlem, saw a well-dressed black woman alone, pulled his gun. Empty the register, or I empty your head. The woman looked at him, calm. You just made a terrible mistake. Her name was Mayme Johnson. In 4 hours, her husband would walk in with a straight razor. Charlie had escaped from a prison bus, made it to New York with $7, and no plan. 6 days riding freight trains, stealing, drinking whiskey. By Penn Station, he was exhausted, desperate. He got lost, got off at 125th Street, found himself where every face was black. His racist brain told him to leave. But then he saw Mayme's dress shop, prosperous, nice dresses. Charlie's Klan thinking told him, a dress shop in a black neighborhood would be easy. Women here wouldn't fight back. He was catastrophically wrong. Mayme Johnson was 41, married to Bumpy Johnson for 13 years. The shop was empty. Mayme was alone doing inventory. The bell chimed. She saw a white man, filthy jacket, wild eyes, his hand inside his coat. She'd been married to a gangster for 13 years. She knew what a man carrying a gun looked like. Charlie pulled out a Colt M1911. Old, poorly maintained. Empty the register, he said. Mayme didn't move, didn't scream. She looked at him like he was a child having a tantrum. You're not from here, Mayme said. Calm, steady. You're lost, aren't you? I know exactly where. You're in Harlem, on Lenox Avenue. You pulled a gun on me. Do you know who I am? Charlie didn't. That ignorance would cost him everything. My name is Mayme Johnson. It didn't register. Charlie didn't know Harlem, didn't know the names that mattered. You just made a terrible mistake, Mayme said. Charlie laughed nervously. Mayme walked past him, calmly turned the open sign to closed, locked the door. What are you doing? Buying you time, a few hours. Then she made a call. It's me. Tell him the roses need watering. The shop closed early. What the hell was that? Small's Paradise, a nightclub. I left a message for my husband. Something cold twisted in Charlie's stomach. Your husband, Ellsworth Johnson, though most call him Bumpy. Charlie had no idea who Bumpy Johnson was. No idea there were 3 rules everyone knew. Rule 1, don't steal from Bumpy's people. Rule 2, don't disrespect Bumpy's territory. Rule 3, don't ever touch Bumpy's wife. Charlie had just broken Rule 3. Sirens. Charlie's head snapped toward the front. Police cars pulling up. 3 cars. 6 cops. You called the cops? No, but someone saw you. Harlem looks out for its own. Police surrounded the building. Charlie dragged Mayme to the front, pressed the gun against her head. By noon, 200 people had gathered on Lenox Avenue. Mothers with children, old men, store owners. They filled the street, standing between police and Mayme's shop. Not threatening, just present. An elderly woman wearing a church hat looked at the sergeant. We're not interfering. We're witnessing. This is our neighborhood. That's Mrs. Johnson in there. We're not leaving. Captain William Henderson showed up. You couldn't arrest 200 people. Henderson had taken money from Bumpy for years. Inside, Charlie was deteriorating. Cops outside, no way out. And Mayme wasn't crying, just waiting, calm. Why aren't you scared? Mayme looked at him. Because this ends the same way. The only question is whether you surrender before my husband gets here. Charlie Morrison, ex-KKK, escaped convict on death row. Charlie's eyes widened. How? Charlie, you're already a dead man. Georgia wants to execute you. You've got maybe 3 months. But there are different ways to die. Georgia's electric chair, that's quick. 2,000 volts, gone in seconds. But my husband, he's not quick. He's patient and creative. If you hurt me, he will make your last hours so much worse. At 3:42 p.m. the phone rang. Charlie picked up. Morrison, this is Captain Henderson. You need to let Mrs. Johnson go. Not because of the law, because her husband just arrived. Charlie felt his blood turn to ice. What? Bumpy Johnson is here. I've worked in Harlem 15 years. I've seen what this man does. You're already on death row. Don't make your last days worse. Let her go. At least that way it's fast. Look out the window. Charlie peered through. The crowd had parted, creating a path. Walking down that path, moving with unhurried confidence, was Bumpy Johnson. He was 45 years old, but the way he moved made him seem enormous. Gray suit, perfectly tailored, fedora, cold, empty, like looking into the eyes of a shark. Bumpy stopped 10 feet from the door, reached into his jacket. Every cop tensed. Bumpy pulled out a straight razor. He opened it with a practiced flick. Click. Captain, in about 2 minutes I'm going through that door. What happens after? You don't want your officers to witness. If they hear anything, they wait 30 seconds before entering. That's all I need. Henderson looked at the crowd. 200 witnesses. Then at Bumpy. Made a calculation. Officers, fall back to the end of the block. Do not approach unless I give the order. The cops retreated. Far enough they couldn't see clearly. Bumpy walked to the door. Locked. He stepped back. Called out. Morrison, you've got 2 choices. Choice 1. Open this door. Let my wife walk out unharmed. I let Henderson arrest you. You go back to Georgia. They execute you clean. Quick. Choice 2. I come through this door. Before you go back, you spend days in a Harlem hospital, wishing you'd chosen option 1. Inside, Charlie was shaking. He's bluffing. He's not bluffing, Mayme said. Let me go, please. Bumpy was done waiting. He ran forward and kicked the door. The door exploded inward. Charlie spun, tried to aim. Bumpy was already inside, the razor open. No, Charlie screamed, pulled the trigger. Click. The Colt 1911 jammed. The poorly maintained pistol failed. Charlie stared at the useless gun for 1 frozen second. Bumpy closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed Charlie's wrist, twisted until Charlie screamed. The pistol clattered to the floor. The razor came up in 1 smooth motion. Bumpy pushed Charlie back against the wall. The razor opened a precise line across Charlie's throat. Not deep, not the carotid. A message cut. 1 clean line from left jaw to right. Deep enough to bleed heavily. Deep enough to scar permanently, but not deep enough to kill. That's for putting your hands on my wife, Bumpy said quietly. Calm. Charlie clutched his throat. Blood poured between his fingers, his eyes wide with shock. Bumpy stepped back, wiped the razor on Charlie's jacket, closed it, slipped it into his pocket. Then he turned to Mayme. You fine? Good. Bumpy turned back to Charlie, who'd slid down the wall. Morrison, look at me. Charlie looked up, blood running down his arms. You came to Harlem thinking it'd be easy. You thought everything the Klan taught you would protect you. You were wrong. That cut, that's your lesson. You remember the day you learned hate isn't armor, a gun isn't power, and some women have husbands who walk through police lines to protect them. Bumpy stood, called out, Captain Henderson, Morrison's ready for arrest. He needs medical attention. Cut on his throat, superficial but bleeding. Henderson appeared, 2 officers behind. They looked at Charlie bleeding, looked at Bumpy calm, looked at the jammed pistol. Henderson's eyes moved to a decorative letter opener on Mayme's desk. What happened here? Morrison tried to attack my wife with that letter opener. I disarmed him, had to defend her. The story was weak. Everyone knew it. But Henderson understood what Bumpy was offering. I see, Henderson said. And you're certain? Absolutely certain. Henderson turned to Mayme. Can you confirm? That's exactly what happened. My husband stopped him. Thank God he arrived. Henderson nodded. Morrison attacked Mrs. Johnson with a weapon. Mr. Johnson intervened. Get Morrison to Harlem Hospital. Patch him up, then contact Georgia State Prison. 2 officers hauled Charlie to his feet. Charlie was crying. From pain, from fear. As they pulled him past, Bumpy spoke, quiet enough only Charlie could hear. You've got maybe 3 months before Georgia straps you into that chair. Every day, when you see that scar, you remember what you learned. You remember you came here thinking hate made you strong, and you met someone who showed you what real strength looks like. All those years in the Klan, all of it was a lie. And when they flip that switch, your last thought will be about the day a black man in a suit moved faster than you could blink. Charlie was dragged out. The crowd erupted in applause, not bloodthirsty, just relief. Bumpy had done what Bumpy always did, protected Harlem's people. Inside, Bumpy turned to Mayme. You sure you're okay? I'm sure, Mayme said. Then she smiled. I told him he'd made a terrible mistake. Bumpy laughed. I bet you did. He pulled her into a hug. The story of what happened on February 11th, 1952, became legend in Harlem. An ex-Klan member walked into Harlem thinking he could victimize a black woman because he had a gun. He got lost in a neighborhood he didn't understand, chose the wrong target, and learned a lesson that cost him a permanent scar, then cost him his life 3 months later when Georgia executed him. Charlie Morrison went back to Georgia on February 12th. The cut was stitched up, 19 stitches. The scar was thick, a white line across his throat he saw every morning. Other death row inmates asked about it. Charlie would tell different stories. He never told the truth, because the truth made him sound weak. On May 15, 1952, at 12:01 a.m., Charlie Cross Morrison was executed by electrocution. He was 28 years old. His last meal was fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and cornbread. The guards said that as they were strapping him in, Morrison kept touching the scar on his throat. One guard asked about it. That scar from your escape? Morrison looked at him, smiled sadly. No, that's from when I learned my lesson. Too bad it came too late. Then they put the hood over his head. Bumpy Johnson never faced charges.
Henderson's report stated Morrison attacked Mrs. Johnson with a letter opener, that Mr. Johnson acted in defense of his wife. No one contradicted that story. Not the cops. Not the 200 witnesses who knew the code. What happens in Harlem stays in Harlem. Not Morrison himself. Mayme reopened her dress shop the next morning. Business as usual. Customers came in all day to check on her, to say how glad they were she was safe, because that's what the story was really about. When someone from outside tries to hurt one of theirs, the whole neighborhood responds. That protection isn't just about one dangerous man with a razor. It's about 200 people saying not here, not today. It's about unwritten rules everyone knows. The most important one, you don't touch another man's wife. Charlie Morrison made 3 mistakes. The first 2 got him sentenced to death. The third just made the wait shorter. He spent his last 93 days in a cell. The scar on his throat a daily reminder. Hate isn't strength, that a gun isn't power, and that all the lies the Klan fed him for 9 years couldn't protect him from the truth. The truth was simple. In Harlem 1952, Bumpy Johnson had a whole neighborhood behind him. That's why he was untouchable. That's why Mayme could tell an armed man, you just made a terrible mistake, and mean it. And that's why even 70 years later, old-timers in Harlem still tell stories about the day an outsider learned the hard way. You can walk into Harlem, but if you disrespect it, you won't walk out the same. And sometimes you don't walk out at all. If this story hit you, hit subscribe. We're telling the Bumpy Johnson stories history books won't touch. Drop a comment. Do you think Charlie understood the lesson, or did he die still believing the lies? Remember, respect isn't given, it's earned. And in Harlem, Bumpy Johnson earned his every single day.